Hey, welcome back on my Wire Something here. It's so great to see you again. If you're just joining, hi, I'm Wire the Wire. I post fun content like this one. So if you're interested, consider subscribing and check my out beside it. So today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be doing a what if video. I'm planning on making this a series if you guys like it so much. So how the what if series is going to work, I'm going to take a major event that happened in a movie and then switch it around so it's the opposite. So some of this might turn out better than how the movie happened, or some of this might turn bad. So today we're going to do that, and I hope to make this a series. Let me know in the comments if you guys want to see more of this, if you like this video that much. So hopefully this is a what if video comes next week. So let's get into it. So this what if video is going to be based off the Beauty and the Beast movie. It's going to be what if the curse stayed on the Beast longer. So it's basically if the curse lasted longer. So let's just get into the video. Basically the story plot is just if the curse stayed longer and the Beast stayed a beast just a little bit longer than how the movie played. So the movie starts out pretty simple. It's basically the same as the original. It's when things start to change is when Belle goes into the West Wing and finds the Beast's rose. Now, unlike in the original, where just before Belle was about to touch the rose, Beast comes in and stops her. That doesn't happen in this version. In this version, Belle actually touches the rose, and the rose disintegrates. Beast comes in 2 minutes later, all shouting, "What did you do to it?" Like how in the original, and Belle is upset of what she did, she's also kind of confused because she doesn't know why the Beast is so bent up about a rose. Beast then calms down just a little bit and explains that the rose is his time limit of how the rose is his time limit of how long he's been a beast and how long he has until he is a beast forever. So Belle, feeling kind of mad at herself and ashamed, she just stands there quietly. Beast then calms down enough to tell her to actually go hard for a little bit and is ashamed and has no further purpose for Belle being there, so he decides to tell her to leave the castle and never come back. She does though ashamed and packs all her stuff and leaves on Philippe, her horse. She then returns to the village to her father Maurice, who at the time when she comes in to her house, is packing to go back to the castle to find Belle. And once Belle comes in, Maurice jumps to her with a big hug, but notices that his daughter is crying and sobbing in tears. He asks what's wrong, and Belle explains everything. Maurice isn't really that upset about it because he doesn't really know the Beast as much as she does now, so he thinks this is all just one big mistake, and thinks that Belle did the right thing disintegrating the rose. Belle does not agree and just goes out to her room. She sobs herself to sleep. Cut back to the castle where Beast is telling all the inanimate objects of what has happened to the rose. All the inanimate objects groan and are angry and just leave, knowing that they will never be human again. 5 years pass. 5 years pass, and Beast is way older. Like he hasn't really changed. He's changed a little. His clothes are all torn more than before. He has really long mane hair, like all the way down to his shoulders. And the inanimate objects are more miserable than ever. They rarely talk about anything of what their human life used to be like, and they just mope around the castle just doing nothing. Cut back to the village. Belle is trying to move on with her life. Gaston has practically forced his love on her, and just to stop his bickering and just to get her mind off what she did to the Beast 5 years earlier, she decides to marry him. Gaston and Belle's marriage is all but happy. Gaston does nothing but just hunt and just sit in the house all day, while Belle is doing all the work. Belle is miserable more than ever she was and wishes she could take everything that has happened in the last 5 years back. One night she wakes up in cold sweat, having a vivid nightmare of when she destroyed the Beast's rose. Still ashamed of herself for what she did, she decides to leave the house and try to sneak back to the castle. Just as she gets to the front door, though, Gaston turns on a light and exposes her deceitment. Gaston walks up to her all mad about why she's leaving, and Belle tries to explain what happened with the Beast 5 years ago. Gaston becomes enraged that Belle is still torn up about a beast, so he pushes Belle past and locks the door, not letting her go. Belle tries to plead with Gaston to let her go, but Gaston does not let her. When Belle tries to reach for the door, Gaston grabs her by the wrist and pushes her to the floor. Belle starts crying, and Gaston just ignores her and walks back to his room. Belle sits on the floor crying for almost an hour, and then she decides to suck up her courage, grab her coat, and lockpick the door and open the door. She then catches her own horse Philippe, in a barn stall. Before heading off to the castle, she goes back to her old house with Maurice. Maurice is just sitting in bed, thinking of how much he misses his daughter. He then comes to see his daughter and sees her in tears. He knows how miserable Belle has been in the last 5 years since she came home from the Beast's castle. But then when she reveals that she's going back to the castle to try and make amends with the Beast, Maurice refuses. But Belle goes anyway. Belle doesn't really see the problem in knowing that Beast is more kinder, more gentler. He wasn't angry that much. So 2 days later, she's back at the castle, and once she opens the door, the inanimate objects just stare at her in disapproval and glare. They are very angry at her, even Mrs. Potts. Belle leans down to Lemire and asks where the Beast is. Lemire replies that his master is in his quarters, and Belle makes her way to the Beast's room. When she knocks on the door, she hears the Beast's gruff voice telling her to enter. When Belle enters and she sees the Beast, she instantly fears more bad. He looks horrible. He has so many bags under his eyes, it looked like he hadn't slept in the last 5 years. Like I said, his hair is much longer, and his clothes are more torn. So he asks what Belle is doing there, and she lets him know what has happened. And she lets him know what has happened to her in the last 5 years. Beast then recalls what he has gone through in the last 5 years. They reconcile, but at the end of the conversation, Beast still regrets Belle coming here and asks her to leave. Belle refuses and asks that she stays. Beast asks why, and then Belle tells Beast about her husband Gaston. Beast is confused at why Belle doesn't want to stay with Gaston, considering all his positives, and Belle tells her the negatives of how much of an abusive husband she is, and not a good husband at all. Beast agrees to let Belle stay for as long as she wants, and seeing as there's no other way to fix anything anyway. A week passes, and Maurice keeps sending Belle letters, asking how she is. Belle keeps replying. Then there's a loud bang on the door. Belle goes to answer it, and Gaston is there with a dark expression on his face. He towers over Belle more than the Beast ever did. He grabs Belle by the arm and tries to pull her to his horse. Beast then comes down, and Gaston's face changes from anger to pure fear. The instant he sees the Beast, he grabs his crossbow and tries to shoot. Belle grabs the crossbow and pulls it out of his hand. But Gaston looks shocked at his wife and asks why is he doing this. It's a Beast, and she replies by telling him he's more human than you will ever be. He then tries to get the Beast back into his room, but the Beast refuses. He gets very angry that Gaston put his hands on Belle and leaps at him. Now, Beast being a beast for around 21 years now, he is around 21 years now. He's very strong and much more faster than Gaston. But Gaston is a trained hunter, so he knows how to deal with it. He brings out a club, just like in the original. He brings out one of those gargoyle clubs and tries to hit Beast with it. Beast dodges and scratches Gaston with his claws across the chest. There are deep gash marks in Gaston's chest, and he's currently bleeding out. While Gaston tries to... But then Gaston resorts to one last fight. He brings out his handgun and tries to shoot Beast right in the heart. Belle pushes the gun out of his way, but the bullet fires, hitting Beast in the gut. Beast groans and howls into the air, and then tries to leap at Gaston, but he's too injured to fight anymore. Gaston then brings out a sword and tries to cut off his head for the finishing blow. But just as he does, Beast throws a pile of dirt into Gaston's eyes and slashes his heart. As Gaston lies there on the floor, Belle comes up to him, takes off her ring, and throws it at his face. Then Beast grabs Gaston by the cloak and throws him off the cliff. Back in the castle, they are able to mend Beast's wounds. Then, just as Beast is reassuring that Belle's okay, a glowing light comes out from the darkness. It's the enchantress that cursed Beast so many years before. She admires Beast's courage to protect the woman that he loves and tells him to come with her to the West Wing. Belle and Beast follow the enchantress back to the West Wing, and she makes the rose come back to life, as well as make the Beast a prince again. Beast is thankful to the enchantress and apologizes for what he did to her so many years before. And the enchantress assures him that there's no need to apologize, and you have done your part in the deed. Belle and Beast declare to be married the next morning, and then 2 years later they have 2 daughters. They live as a happy couple in the midst of the kingdom. The prince also hires Belle's father, Maurice, as the painter for the castle, and they all lived happily ever after. What did you think about this? Let me know in the comments what you thought, and let me know if you want to see more of What Is. Wyatt, signing out, but remember, peace and kindness, the things we need most. Stay wild.